And finally, we talk a lot about these different demographics and these assumptions of where they're going to go. Latinos in Texas, a district that's 97% Latino, went 75 percentage points for Donald Trump. Why?
Misogyny.
It's on the border.
It's
the border
misogyny.
crisis is on their doorstep. And they were begging people to care about it for years. We need to take some lessons.
That's what that was.
The lessons are not misogyny.
Knock. Who's there? Oh my gosh, it's Whoopi.
Misogyny. That's it. That's the election in a nutshell for these left-wing lunatics. A district that's 97% Latino on the southern border voted for Trump, not because they're concerned about illegal immigration. No, why would they? They're just on the southern border. No, this district, 97% Latino district, voted for Trump because they're all misogynists and sexists. If that isn't whistling past the graveyard on the part of this woke leftist lunatic, Sonny Hostin, I have no idea what is. Gang, obviously Americans are tired and frustrated by a stalling economy, inflation, endless wars, and the relentless assault on our values. But thankfully, there are companies like Patriot Mobile that still believe in America and our Constitution. I'm proud to partner with Patriot Mobile because they're on the front lines fighting for the First and Second Amendments, the sanctity of life, and our military and first responder heroes. Take a stand for conservative causes and put America first by switching to Patriot Mobile today. You'll get the same nationwide coverage as the big providers because Patriot Mobile operates across all three major networks. Plus, they back their service with a coverage guarantee. Their 100% U.S.-based customer service team will find the best plan for your needs. Keep your phone number, keep your phone, or upgrade. Go to patriotmobile.com/Turley Talks or call them at 972-PATRIOT. That's 972-PATRIOT. Right now, get a free month, a whole free month when you use the offer code Turley Talks. Don't forget that. Use Turley Talks. You get a free month. Don't get fooled by other providers pretending to share your values or have the same coverage. They don't and they can't. Join me. Switch to America's only Christian conservative mobile provider, Patriot Mobile. As you saw there with Sonny Hostin, who has just got to be, as you yourself saw, she's got to be the most miserable, angry, resentful, aggrieved person on the planet. I mean, she's basically in the denial phase of the stages of grief, right? Now, unfortunately, I think she's been locked in that stage since 2016. She's never been able to emancipate herself from her aggrievement and her repulsive bitterness. But ironically, as we'll see here, she's her willful blinder, her sticking her fingers in her ears. La, 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 I don't want to hear la, 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 la. No, boy, there is no southern border problem. There is no crime is down. Greatest economy in the world. She's only in those hysterics. She's only guaranteeing her being all the more mired in misery in elections to come. And I hope to show you that in today's video. First and foremost, just to frame this, where we are right now, big picture, Trump, of course, won an epic win with 312 electoral votes, 6 more than he won in 2016. He won the popular vote. He won the Senate. If you don't know, the Republican Dave McCormick in Pennsylvania has declared victory. The outstanding vote, he's ahead, and all the outstanding votes are all in solid Republican areas. So there's no way that longtime Democrat Bob Casey really can win at this point, though he has not conceded the race. So we'll see how things develop there. Things continue to look very good in the House races. According to the latest from Decision Desk, the GOP is leading in the majority of the races still left uncalled, several with nearly all their votes in. So barring any surprises, the chances are that we are very good that the Republicans should keep their majority in the House. Of course, we've got the Senate. We've got the majority of governorships. I don't know if you know that, 27 of the 50 states are now officially Republican governors. Michigan Republicans captured their state house, ending the Democrat trifecta for their crazy, nutty governor, Gretchen. Republicans expanded their supermajorities in states like Idaho and Tennessee and Kentucky. Kentucky is 80% Republican right now. Did you know that in their state legislature? 80% Republican. Kansas as well. Even in blue states, deep blue states like Vermont, Democrats lost their supermajorities. Republicans made some very, very impressive gains. For me, the two big takeaways from the election that I really see, again, big picture here, are the major political realignment of the working class, both white and non-white, particularly Latino, those misogynist Latinos, and the emergence of a new set of swing states as a result of this working class realignment. So we're seeing a realignment of voters, and we're seeing a realignment of states, as it were. So let's start with this political realignment. And that is, and many of you have been following this channel for a while, we've been actually tracking with this realignment for years now. We finally saw it manifest itself in all of its glory on Tuesday. But what we saw is really this mass defection of the working class away from the political left, where they used to be, and instead now they're voting for the right, particularly for Trump. Now, what's so interesting with this political realignment of the working class to the right is that it's the same realignment that we're actually seeing on the other side of the Atlantic in Europe. So it's not just specific here. That's why I wrote my book, Fight How Trump and the MAGA Movement Are Changing the World. It's not just changing America. It's how Trump and the MAGA movement are changing the world. And in my book here, I show you all the different ways in which the same kind of political realignment that we're seeing here in the United States, with the working class defecting away from the political left and embracing the right, is happening in Europe as well. We first saw it with the Brexit referendum back in 2016, where the vast majority of the British working class voted to leave the European Union. All of their Labour MPs, members of Parliament, were all pro-Remainers. They want to stay with Brussels and the European Union, but the working class defected away and actually voted for that referendum. We saw very similar dynamics behind the rise of Giorgia Meloni in Italy, where the Italian working class began to vote with the right for the very first time. We saw it with the rise of Marine Le Pen in France, with the Yellow Vest uprising, if you remember that. They all gave their support behind her. Geert Wilders in the Netherlands with the Farmers' Revolt. They all switched to the political right. So on both sides of the Atlantic, we're seeing a similar shift among working class voters away from their traditional Labor parties or Democrat parties, the left-wing parties, over now to the right. And the key reason for this, and this is what Sonny Hostin just doesn't quite understand, the key reason for this is because the right has been able to shift left on economic issues in a way that leftist parties have not been able to shift right on cultural issues. So while the left has increasingly embraced wokeness, the right has been able to address both the working class concerns over globalist economics on the one hand, while addressing as well their concerns on woke insanity on the other. We often talk about what's called post-security politics on this channel. If you've been with us for a while now, and if not, make sure you smack that bell and subscribe button. But you've heard this term before, post-security politics. And the gist here is that the nation state is supposed to give us three securities: border security, economic security, and cultural security, right? So with border security, we're protected from invaders and marauders. With economic security, if particularly in a nation state context, the economy is big enough so as to provide sufficient material conditions for us to be able to live, have a decent life. And cultural security involves common language, customs, traditions that give us a collective sense of sharing in a common meaning and purpose in life. And what's happened is that under globalism and globalist structures, which are by definition transnational and transcultural and transspatial, all three of those securities have eroded over the last decade. So border security, of course, is eroded, and that globalist structures don't honor national sovereignty. They open up the borders to provide cheap labor for globalist corporations and the like. We've seen the erosion of economic security as a result of what's called a global division of labor, where corporations are sending manufacturing and industrial jobs overseas, leaving rural populations highly unemployed. And of course, we're seeing the erosion of cultural security with open borders bringing in radical demographic change, people not even knowing how to speak our same language. Springfield, Ohio is a perfect example. By the way, Springfield, Ohio voted for Trump overwhelmingly. Ha ha ha. Who gets the last laugh on that one? Right. So you start putting in, thousands and thousands of Haitian migrants into a town of 50,000, and it completely disrupts the culture and so forth. And then when the people complain, they are accused of being racist and bigoted and all kinds of phobic and the like, maybe misogynist as well, and sexist and so forth. So the great backlash that we're seeing happening, not just here, but all over the world, particularly in the United States and Europe, but Latin America as well, is a blowback against these globalist-inspired insecurities. More and more people want to reassert their national sovereignty through border security. This is what, in many ways, Brexit was all about back in 2016. They want to reassert their economic security by bringing manufacturing and industrial jobs back home. And they want to reassert their cultural security by reaffirming and renewing and celebrating rather than denigrating their unique cultures, customs, and traditions that give us a common purpose and meaning to life. And it's the working class, both white and non-white, that are leading the way here, leading the way in this great revolt against globalism and globalist institutions. We talked about this in one of our earlier videos, but take a look at this. This chart here, I think we have this. Yeah, excellent. Thank you, Micah. Take a look at the shift we're seeing towards Trump among what are traditionally Democrat constituencies. So in urban cities, in urban counties, metropolitan counties, they shifted to Trump by 5 points. Suburban counties, right, where all those white women were supposed to come out for Kamala, sorry, they shifted to Trump by 4. Counties with higher than a 25% Black population shifted to Trump by 4. Counties with a 25% or more Latino population shifted to Trump by nearly 10, 9.5. That's a lot of misogyny. Counties that are less than half white shifted to Trump by 7. And even counties with more than 50% college grads. That's interesting because college grads tend to be the centerpiece of the new woke left. Even those counties shifted to Trump by 4. And this is where ultra-left diehards like Sonny Hostin are just missing the train big time. They can run around and cry misogyny and sexism till they're blue in the face. It's going to do nothing. Absolutely not. Well, actually, if anything, well, I'll take that back. I was going to say it doesn't do anything to bring these voters back to the Democrats, but I'm going to take that back in that, if anything, it's only further driving them away. Wokeness is provoking a cultural security backlash. So in denigrating their security concerns as being sexist and misogynist, Sonny Hostin is only exacerbating the problem for the left. Now, ironically, Chuck Todd of MSNBC seems to understand that. Take a look at what he had to say on election night.
That continues to me to be the big story of the night, is the shift among Hispanics. Look, Hispanic voters are swing voters, and I think, what's interesting here is the Republican Party treated them the same way they treated white working class voters. They courted them the same way they treated white working class voters. The Democratic Party has spent a lot of time treating it as an identity group, you know, and you know, whether it's Latinx, which sort of fell flat, and so there's been a lot of hand wringing about this inside Democratic circles, a real split. Like, you know, it was a total misread, sort of by the coastal strategists, when it comes to how to target working class voters of color. And I think we're starting to see sort of a working class coalition start to drift to the right. You know, before, Donald Trump had working class whites. Now he's adding working class Hispanics and working class, not necessarily seeing evidence of working class African Americans, but adding working class Hispanics. That becomes a very durable majority.
Well, another way of saying that is the education gap.
Well, it's the
whether
same
you're
thing.
College educated or non-college educated.
It doesn't matter your ethnicity. It matters your education.
Right.
But is it Donald Trump or is it the Republican Party?
Or is it the Democratic Party?
Ooh, that's a good question. Or is it the Democratic Party? That was very good. Well, what do you know? A broken clock really is right twice a day, right? I'm being facetious here, of course, but Chuck Todd gets it. He gets it. It doesn't matter what color you are or ethnicity. Post-security politics affects everyone. If you're inside unsecured borders, if you're watching your manufacturing jobs disappear overseas, if you're being stigmatized by a bunch of Hollywood millionaires for being misogynist and sexist, you're going to push back. I don't care what color you are. I don't care what ethnicity you are. I don't care what gender you are. You're going to push back. And that is exactly what we're seeing. And so this working class realignment is leading to the second major takeaway from all of this, and that is the rise of a new set of swing states. And we talked about this a little bit earlier today, but we are now seeing the rise of a whole new set of swing states. Now, in case you don't know, swing state is a state where the winner wins by only a couple of points. So they're winning by low single digits. And so the win is bumping up against the margin of error. And to the extent that the win is either inside or bumping up against that margin of error, then by definition, the state has the potential of swinging in the other direction. After Tuesday's landslide win, we're now looking at a whole new set of swing states that you never even imagined, like New Jersey. Freaking New Jersey. Trump came within 5 of winning New Jersey. I mean, just let that hit you. We have not seen this before in decades. We're talking since the 80s, gang. The New York Post has a lead article today on Jersey being an actual swing state. And the reason for that, of course, is because Jersey has a very large working class population. Many of them, both white and non-white, defected to Trump. So much so, he actually came within 5 points of taking Jersey. He came within 5 points of winning New Jersey. I'll be chatting with Cliff Maloney of the PA Chase about what he thinks are the prospects of actually flipping Jersey in 2028. Take a look at this map. If you can believe that. If you know your maps, then you'll know it. But imagine I told you, and if you're listening by way of our 20 million podcast downloads, I'm showing a map to everyone of a state that's completely red. It's entirely red, except for a little tiny blue patch. But it's entirely red. There's a couple of parts that are even deep red. Gang, that's Minnesota. That's Tim Walz's Minnesota. I kid you not. It is 98% red, for the exception of the Twin Cities and a couple of small urban areas. The entire state is now under Republican control in what has traditionally been one of the most reliably blue states in the entire nation. Again, I will never let you Minnesotans forget that you voted for Mondale in 1984. In case you want to know, Trump came within 4 points of flipping Minnesota. The more the Latino and non-white working class begin to realign around a new Trumpian Republican Party, you could kiss those 4 points goodbye. Now, again, the key here is that if this working class continues, right, you got to get that. If this working class continues to move to the right, that 4-point edge goes down to 2, goes down to 1, goes down to -1, -2, and all of a sudden, a Vance ticket is winning Minnesota in 2028. Another swing state to emerge is New Mexico. Trump came within 5 of taking New Mexico. Of course, he did one of his final rallies in Albuquerque. The key with New Mexico is that Trump generally will win the white vote, but it's the Latino vote there that's the issue. Latinos make up about 40% of the population in New Mexico, so a sizable majority of Latinos and a minority of uppity white votes generally give the Democrats New Mexico every time. But now, with the defection of Latinos over to the right, larger and particularly New Mexico Latinos, because they are working class Latinos. They're inordinately working class, right? The more Latinos move over to the right, they'll join up now with the white class there, with the white voter, and we may have a new coalition in New Mexico. Again, it doesn't take much. We're talking 5 points here. So if Trump is winning the majority of the white vote in New Mexico, and then he gets a super solid number of the Latino vote, particularly the Latino working class vote, that exceeds, he'll crush it. New Mexico is by definition in play. It is by definition competitive. And we can add to this list New Hampshire, Maine, and even Virginia as well. So these 6 states may indeed be the new swing states of 2028, which means that the base, the electoral basement for the new Trumpian GOP is 312. If we can effectively convert these states into the new swing states, we will be in political power for the next generation, especially if we solidify the traditional 7 that Trump just swept, and swept very impressively, very handily. If we could get those margins to be pretty comfortably 5, 6, or 7, past the 5 mark, 6 or 7, just like what we're seeing with Nevada right now. I think he's going to win Nevada by 4 points. Again, no Republicans won Nevada since 2004, since George W. Bush. If we could start really getting that those solid red, then we turn our attention to these new swing states. We will be in power for a generation. And keep in mind, this massive shift to the right is going beyond even these new swing states. Take a look. Micah, do we have the map? But there you go, of California. Look at that, gang. So on the left, that's California in 2020. On the right is California in 2024. Notice a difference? Trump flipped a half dozen counties. He flipped San Bernardino County, he flipped Orange County, he flipped Fresno County. Look at it. Look at it. It's crazy. No county in California flipped the other way. No one went from red to blue. Not one. And we saw very much the same thing in New York. Virtually every single county in New York shifted right. Almost every single one, even New York City. So woke celebrities like Sonny Halston can continue to whistle past the graveyard all they want. The train has left the station. We are seeing a political realignment that's happening on both sides of the Atlantic, and it's changing politics on both continents for the foreseeable future.